Thursday, February 4th, 2010 to order. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Chairman McMillan?
Here.
Dr. Mackey? Mr. Angelpont?
Here.
Mrs. Griffin?
Present.
Mr. Hassan?
Here.
Mrs. Trimmy?
Here.
And President Guidry?
Here.
Everyone's present.
Thank you. Item 3 is consideration of making a recommendation with reference to a request from Chapter 17 of the Disabled American Veterans for $8,500 in matching funds toward the acquisition of a van for provision of daily transportation services for the disablement of veterans traveling from Veterans Hospital in Alexandria, with said funding being allocated from parish-wide needs allocation of the gaming fund. We got a motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by Ms. Griffin. Mr. McMurray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Finney is here. As many of y'all remember, back in 2004, y'all made a similar grant. They made good use of that to purchase a new van. It's time for them to do that again. He has clarified, and he is here if you want to ask him any questions or give him an opportunity to speak, but he's clarified they really only need $7,000. It's not often that somebody comes to you and asks for a particular amount of money and comes back later and says, I really don't need that much. But Mr. Finney said that's if they can get $7,000, they'll be able to replace the van, get themselves another van. Their numbers are up. He's indicated to me that they're really having to transport more veterans, and so I would encourage you to invite him to.
Mr. Finney, if you would, please come to the microphone, and if we have any questions by the jury, we'll get to them. I know this is a tremendous program for our area. We appreciate you. Right here, this microphone, right there on that podium. And if you would, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Charles Finney. I'm the past commander adjutant of Chapter 17, Disabled American Veterans here in Lake Charles.
We have a couple jurors with questions. First, Mr. Anderpont.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In light of the fact that there's 8,500 and you only need 7, how do we address that? Do we change the number?
I wish you
like
would.
It is? Huh?
I wish you would change the number, because our latest figures indicate that we actually have everything covered except $7,150. And I told Mr. McMurray, I'll cover that $150, but I cannot cover the $7,000.
Well, how about $7,150?
That'd be my recommendation.
Mr. Anderpont, that was your motion, so if you'd like to amend that motion, Ms. Griffin would amend a second.
Yeah.
$7,150.
And I don't know why you don't want the $150, but
well, I don't want to take advantage of the.
I don't think you are. Look, we owe you a lot, and when I say we, I'm talking about this whole country. Owe you people a lot, and $150 coming out of your pocket. I'm not saying it's not going to make or break you, but I don't think that it's necessary for you to do that. In light of the fact we were going to give you $8,500. And you ought to concede and just say, okay, give me the $7,100.
Give me the 71.
All right.
$7,150.
Thank you. I could sell a refrigerator to an Eskimo.
Thank you, Mr. Anderpont. Ms. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just would like to say that this is so worthy, and it is something that everybody in the parish is so willing to help with. And I look out of my kitchen window and see your van picking up one of my neighbors. And so it's needed, and it's just a worthy asking. And so we wish you well.
Thank you, ma'am.
Glad that we could help you.
I have a lot of help.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Finney, would you like to have any other comments on your program and maybe enlighten folks about your program?
Our program for our particular area, we not only drive the van, but we also provide places for the people to come and when they have a problem with claims or to put in claims, change claims. And we have a couple of times a year, we have teams come in from National. And we provide the place there. And they come in and they, we have between 100 and 200 people show up normally, including spouses. And I forgot to tell you that spouses are very important to us too. And so we help them get in claims. Last year, we were able to give them back about $2,600,000 that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And we think that's worthy. And then if a man has trouble with a wheelchair or a bed, can't get it, needs help, we give them that. So our program has been in existence for many, many years. And just recently, due to deaths, our membership is declining drastically. And due to deaths and to tight economy, I had to come back to you, ask you again. And I thank you so much for your reception. And especially when you told me I was going to get it.
Thank you, Mr. Finney. Any other jurors? We have a motion by Mr. Anderpont, second by Ms. Griffin for the request of $7,150. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item 3 carries. Item 4 is consideration of making a recommendation with reference to the funding request in the amount of $30,000 from the town of Vinton for expenses related to Vinton's 100th year Heritage Days Festival. Said funding be allocated as followed: $25,000 from the Economic Development allocation of the Gaming Fund and $5,000 from Ward 7 allocation of the Gaming Fund. I got a motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by Mr. Hassan. We have Kenny Stinson, the mayor of Vinton, is here. If you'd like to come up, Kenny, and maybe just tell us a little bit about that, your Heritage Festival coming up, and then we'll vote on this, which I'm sure we're going to try to help out one of our fine cities in our parish.
We appreciate it a lot. Kenny Stinson, 1403 Harge, Vinton. The last 7 years we've put on our festival anticipating our 100 year, and this is our 100 year. And we've been so gracious to the parish for the funding that y'all have given us in the past. We're trying to really do it up big this year. We've got some really named, Marsha Ball is going to be here this year. She's a old Vinton girl, as we call her. But even though she is a Vinton girl, it's still very expensive to get that type of entertainment. So we're running quite a bit over on our budget. The Tourist Bureau, we apply for that grant. We're able to get that. That's helped us in the past. But this money will go a long way in helping us, meet the needs, because the festival is free to everyone. We do things for children. We're hoping to get some rides this year to come in, and we pay for all that and allow everybody to come, make it a fun family atmosphere. We have vendors that come in with food and things like that, and that's the only cost that people have. But it's kind of like homecoming. We get 2 homecomings a year this way. We get the one when all the people come in for the high school, and then we get this one where people plan their vacations to come in and be with their friends for the Heritage Festival. But we do appreciate it. Be glad to answer any questions that you might have about it. But I appreciate Mr. McMurray's helping us to get this, and Ellis Hassan, my police jar. I appreciate everything y'all are doing, for the town.
Are there any discussions or any questions for Mayor Stinson? Mayor, thank you for being here. Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. Is there any objection? Hearing none, item 4 carries. Item 5, consideration of making a recommendation with reference to a funding request for the I-10 Calcasieu River Lighting Project for 1/2 of the remaining cost of the project, deducting contributions from the state and the city of Westlake. And a note there, the city of Lake Charles has requested that the parish participate in a 50-50 remaining portion of the cost, which is total cost of $327,485. The parish portion would be $163,729, and staff recommends that the parish portion be allocated from the parish-wide needs allocation of the gaming funds. Got a motion by Dr. Mackey. Second by Mr. Anderpont on the lights for the bridge. Discussion, Ms. Griffin.
Thank you, sir. Mr. McMurray, do you know when they're going to ever start on this project? It seems like we've been talking about this for a long time.
Well, they better do it pretty quick. The numbers keep going up the longer they wait. I don't know if, Claude, you got an estimated?
Mr. Smart, if you would give us a report on what you know, sir.
I know the city's trying to scramble and get say the project in. They don't have all the I's dotted and everything yet, but they're supposed to spend the state monies by June 30th, I think, or they lose them. So they're trying to get it going.
I wonder why. May I
Yes,
continue
Ms.
to have the floor? I wonder why is it taking them so long, since I think we've been through this before. We've approved
For years.
funds before, maybe more than once, and it's coming back again.
This time it's not their fault. The money they were given in the grant was withdrawn from them, and they had to come back and redo this agreement. So
It was withdrawn from the state of Louisiana?
withdrawn
or the
from the
federal government?
city. It's coming to the state from the federal government, is my understanding, and it was withdrawn.
Okay. Well, sometimes you cannot, things are not under you don't have the power to change it. So that's good. Now, I wasn't insinuating they did. I just wanted to know if we approve some money and we say, here it is, do what you need to do, we're going to help you, and a couple of years later, it's still not completed. That was my concern.
Thank you.
But I'm optimistically hopeful that it will soon, get done. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. Any other
Cautiously,
discussion?
though. Might be 3 more years.
Any other discussion on the lighting of the bridge, lights for bridge, and the appropriation of half the funds? Any objection? Hearing none, item 5 carries. Item 6, consideration of making a recommendation in reference to cooperative endeavor agreement between the police jury and the city of Westlake for a joint
Move on 6.
sponsorship of the 2010
Second.
Southwest Louisiana Adams Pro Golf Tour on March 22nd through 28th at the National Golf Course in Westlake. The police jury will be contributing an amount of $10,000 allocated from the Economic Development Fund allocation of the Gaming Fund. I got a motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by Ms. Trimmy. Is there any discussion? Under discussion, I would like to say this is going to be a major tournament. This is something that I'd had putting on the agenda and working with the city of Westlake. It's a great economic boost for Calcasieu Parish to get this tournament back in Southwest Louisiana. We're thrilled to have it at the National Golf Course in Westlake, and I hope everybody comes out and see these guys play golf. There's some tremendous golfers out there, and I appreciate the jury getting the money to help with economic development for this tournament and for the city of Westlake. So I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item 6 carries. Are there any other matters to be considered by the Budget Committee?
Move to adjourn.
A motion by Dr. Mackey to adjourn, second by Ms. Trimmy. We stand adjourned.
For 2010. Madam Chair, please call the roll. Madam Secretary.
Yes, ma'am. Chairman Griffin,
Present.
Mr. Landry, Mr. Farnum,
Here.
Mr. Hassan,
Here.
Mr. McMillan. Here. And Mr. Spell.
Here.
You do have a quorum.
Thank you. We'll go to number 3. Items for consideration. To receive report from staff with reference to 2010 contract renewals, including property, excess workman's compensation, law enforcement liability, public entity management liability, public entity employment practices liability, auto liability, crime liability, identity, fraud expense, and aircraft mosquito control, and take appropriate action thereof. Mr. Jerry Milner.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to give you, first I'd like to discuss items 3 and 4 on the agenda and take action thereon, and then I would like to let Laura speak a little briefly about our health insurance program.
Would you like to discuss 3, 2, and then I'll read 4 for the minutes after you finish, or do you want me to read 4 now and you discuss them?
Or if you could read 4 and then we could
Okay.
discuss them together.
And number 4 would be to consideration of making a recommendation with reference to the renewal of an annual consultant contract with Arthur Gallagher Risk Management Services, Inc., and further approving an agreement and authorizing the president of the police jury or his designee, when appropriate, to execute all documents related thereto. Now, Mr. Miller, number 3 and 4, please.
Thank you. If each one of you have these handouts, and on page 3, I guess we'll start with the property. You'll see the quotes that we received on the property were from Fireman's. Lexington and Landmark were a combined quote because they had one of them was first $25 million, and the second one was for in excess of $25 million, and the third quote was from Amric. Our total value of the property that we insured is $235,188,586. The amount of we had coverage for all wind except named storms up to $100 million on all different quotes, and the same thing for named storms at $100 million. The one that we chose, based upon if you turn to the second page, you'll see the bottom line. Amric came in at $1,000,000 $33,910.62. So that was the lowest quote, so that's one we recommend selecting. If you turn to the third page, we get to the traveler's package, or the coverages for the law enforcement liability and so forth. We had two quotes, one from Travelers and one from Ace American. As you can see, the Travelers quotes for example, law enforcement liability. Last year, we paid a premium of $52,601. This year's quote, $50,906. For employment practices, this year quote, $30,234. Management liability, $19,257. Auto liability, $133,548. Crime, $2,900. And identity fraud expense of $2,795. So their Travelers' total cost, our bid was for $239,640. The next quote we received was from Ace American, and their total quote for the same package was $283,624. So the one we recommended will be Travelers at $239. Their package for $239,640. On the bottom of the page, we have we received a quote which actually was substantially better than their last year coverage. I think they increased it to $5 million liability on the aircraft. This is the two aircraft at mosquito control. Their premium this year was quoted at $24,258, a better premium cost than the prior year and more coverage. So we recommend, and Lucas has recommended as well, that Westchester cover his aircraft. If you turn to the next page, we get to the workman's comp. We're self-insured up to the first $400,000. Then we have reinsurance to cover claims in excess of that on an annual basis. We had three quotes for our reinsurance on workman's comp. The first one was from Midwest Employers. Last year they had it. They had our coverage, and they charged us $80,690. This year they went up. Their quote was $145,675. The second quote was from Safety National, $117,101. The third quote was from New York Marine. Their quote was $74,366. But for us to get that coverage, they required us to have a loss control consultant cost, which would cost us about $12,000, would cost us $12,000. So I combined those two costs to come out with what it costs us to accept the New York Marine quote, and that would be $86,366. So as a result, we recommend that we select the New York Marine quote for our reinsurance on workman's comp at a cost of $86,366. We also required to have a surety bond on any of these policies, and that surety bond for 2010 year would be for $9,000. So so we have kind of a recap on the next page of all the different policies. And also the last thing that I want to ask you to take action on is our consulting agreement with Gallagher, Arthur J. Gallagher. Their contract last year was for $95,000. They're renewing it with no additional cost of $95,000. So if I look at my total cost of all the coverage, including consulting contract for 2010, that'd be $1,488,174.62 as compared to prior year cost of $1,603,685.25. Is there any questions from the committee?
Mr. McMillan?
Thank you. Jerry, and I see we're renewing the consulting contract. Did we shop that any at all, or is that something that you don't usually shop?
Well, usually we.
Another reason I'm
Okay.
asking like that's really kind of our only person that I see local. It seems like most of these other ones are, I guess, kind of, let me combine a bunch of questions together. These other ones are kind of out of the parish. Maybe we're going out. And some of the ratings of these companies, do we have good ratings with all these insurance companies?
All these are highly rated companies. That's part of the requirements before they accept a bid from, Arthur J. Gallagher. They have an office here, And I guess we have, a lot of times we use the same consultants year after year because they're familiar with our coverages and they haven't gone up over the last several years, so we've been
And the
comfortable.
reason I ask that, I just want to make sure under the bid process, and when you've got something of this
But
magnitude.
professional services is not required to be bid out.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the reason we have not. And we've been satisfied with the service we received, so usually that's the barometer that we use for consultants.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Spell?
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. Mr. Milner, just a question on the loss control consultation, which was $12,000.
Mm-hmm.
Could you please just go over what specifically that consultant will provide as part of that fee?
Nationally Workman's Comp, we're going to be looking at the risk areas that we've had claim costs in the prior year. We're going to try to, look at the ones that we've had the most cost in, try to address, go in, find out specifically what could be changed or what we could, safety measures we could install and to try to reduce those future costs in those areas that we've had large claim costs in this year and prior years. And so the consultant would be helping us come up with programs or safety programs to address the risks that have been identified. And they have done some. They have identified some areas that we've had, our claims in prior years have been in. So we're going to be trying to address the those areas first. And he's going to help us try to design programs, and we're going to have meetings with those particular groups and try to reduce the cost. And they're going to help us along the way design programs and help identify areas we can, hopefully reduce the, claims.
May I, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, you may.
Did we have that service last year, Mr. Milner?
No, we did not.
Okay, and even with the addition of that service, we still come out way below our original cost. And I'm assuming that we're expecting to realize some cost savings from reduced claims from the result.
Yeah, we're our staff in-house has been concentrating on drilling down and really trying to take more ownership, instead of outside third parties, handling that in the past. We're taking more in-house and trying to, monitor that on a daily basis, trying to, set up programs, trying to identify areas and try to really be aggressively trying to reduce those costs in the future. So, yeah, I think we're going to have, I feel like we're having better control and taking more ownership, and I think in the future those costs are going to go down because of that.
Okay. If it's appropriate, Ms. Griffin, I'd make a motion we approve staff recommendation.
I have one more speaker, and then we'll go back to your motion. Mr. Hanson?
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. Mr. Milner, Gallagher Consulting, how many contracts do we currently have with them? It seems like just a couple of months ago we renewed another contract.
No, we have
The same one?
actually with the at one point they were monitoring our general liability claims. We started doing that in-house, so actually we reduced the contract with them that we had in the past. We've taken one of the things that we used to have a contract with them as far as monitoring general liability claims, and we've taken that in-house. And this is the only contract that we have remaining outstanding with them.
Okay.
And like I said, we've taken some more in-house and trying to take more ownership in-house.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Griffin.
Now, the chair, do we have any other concerns or questions? If not, any other matters for consideration?
We'd like, the committee to take action on these items, and then we would like to give some additional information to you that requires no action.
Okay, thank you, sir. The chair will entertain a motion from Mr. Spell.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would move that we accept staff recommendations regarding our renewals.
We need a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any concerns or objections? If not, motion will pass. Mr. Milner?
Yes, ma'am. We just like to. I brought Laura with me today, and to discuss our health program. We've made a change this year from BMS and Express Scripts. BMS was really the self-insured program with Blue Cross for employers with less than 1,000 employees. What we did this year was step to the Big Blue, they call it, which was the hopefully going to get better discounts and try to help mitigate some of the our claim costs of the past year. Last year, unfortunately, we had our expenses were in excess of our revenues, about $520,000. So we were looking for ways, without increasing our cost to our employees and to the parish, trying to find out ways that we could get better discounts and reduce our claim costs. And so we made that transfer. We made that transition to Big Blue. We've had a few hiccups with this transfer, and we tried to do things to mitigate some of the problems that we've had in this transition, and that's why I asked Laura if she could kind of just give an update on this transition.
If you look at page 9, I have broken out a comparison of the prescription copays for 30-day retail and also 90-day mail order supplies. What actually occurred is when we moved from Script Care to Express Scripts, we initially moved from a 3-tier concept to a 5-tier concept. And we also thought we were doing something positive by lowering the generic copay from 8 to 7 and the Tier 3, the non-formulary, from 50 to 45. What actually occurred when we went to Express Scripts and Blue Cross was they had a large number of prescriptions that moved from the 2nd tier to the 3rd tier. So what we thought was going to end up being a cost savings, it actually cost the employees a lot more. For example, the Tier 3, we were at 50 for 09. We lowered it to 45 January 2010. We've now moved it to 30. We were finding that people were increasing from that Tier 2 at $20 up to $45. So it was a $25 increase per drug. With a lot of people having 3 and 4 drugs a month affected, it was increasing them $100 or more a month in copays. So we did make that transition effective 2/1/2010, try to ease some of this burden. We adjusted it to 7, 15, 30, and then 50 and 50 for Tier 4 and 5. We've also adjusted that 90-day mail order. Even though the employees are still going to be paying $10 more because they moved from 20 to 30 basically, we have no control or flexibility with moving the drugs between tiers. The only control we have is with the copays, and we're also limited to what we can do with the copays because of rebates. We had to do what Express Scripts would allow us to do, so we adjusted as much as we could. If you look at page 10, I did this is actually just a small comparison. This was just some of our top, this was 56 actually of our top drugs that we found moved from Tier 2 to Tier 3. This is not even a full comparison. Therefore, raising the copays, what would have been $20 last year to $30 this year. As you can see, it's quite a few: cardiovascular, endocrine, obstetrical, and gynecological. It really did affect a lot of prescriptions across the board. So we just wanted to make you aware that we know about the problem, and we did try to change it as positively as we could with the limitations that we have from Blue Cross and Express Scripts.
We thank you so much for your report. Do we have any questions? And just let me say that I think your office does just a wonderful job at trying to save money for our workers and the staff and all of our different departments and that we represent and take care of. And I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And we know that because of the high cost of health care and prescriptions and everything, we know that prices are going up. So it's good and it's important that you try to use all of the avenues necessary to try to save our workers money. Do we have any questions? Mr. Spell?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just for information, did Blue Cross notify us of this prior to, or did they just send a letter saying deal with it?
They
Or
did.
none of
We
the
did not
above?
have notification of this. However, I really, and Heat and Blue Cross has said too, they did not think that there would be that big of a difference between the formulary list from one PBM or pharmacy benefit management to another. No one had any knowledge that there would be this big of a change moving between Script Care and Express Scripts. They follow the same regulations as far as determining their formulary drugs as all PBMs. They take the ADA recommendations, the Drug Administration's recommendation, and then they have a panel of doctors that refuse the medications, the cost, the efficiency of them, that kind of thing, and they make their determinations. They just didn't know that there would be that many changes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Anyone else? I need a motion to accept. You said, just a minute, we don't need any action on this?
No, ma'am, that was just for information.
Very good. Do we have any other concerns? If not, we need a motion to
Move to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.
Dear Lord, we come to you today humbly asking for guidance and wisdom as we make decisions for your people that we serve. Lord, we ask that you place your hand of protection on families that are struggling with the rains over the last few days. Lord, the rains that you send to nourish the land upon which we live. Lord, please address those concerns as a testament to your greatness that you can address all needs, great and small. Lord, we also ask that you continue a hand of protection for our troops that serve our nation abroad. And Lord, most importantly, we thank you for the sacrifice of your Son, Jesus Christ, who died and rose on the third day for forgiveness of our sins. And Lord, even though it may be a trivial matter concerned to the other ills of the world, and Lord, even though it would be considered a selfish request to ask for a decisive victory against the Indianapolis Colts this weekend, Lord, we pray only that you bless the players and coaches of the New Orleans Saints with blessing that they may play to the maximum potential of their God-given ability, and that the game played by all men on both sides of the field brings glory to your name. We ask these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Mr. Andrepont?
Here.
Mr. Brain?
Here.
Mr. Collins?
Here.
Mr. Farnham?
Here.
Mrs. Griffin? Mr. Hassan?
Here.
Mr. Landry? Dr. Mackey?
Present.
Mr. McMillan? Here. Mr. Scott? Here. Mr. Spell?
Here.
Mr. Stoney? Oh,
Here.
again, Mr. Stelling. I'm so sorry.
No problem.
Mr. Sias?
Size is here.
And Mrs. Trimmy?
Me too.
And President Guidry.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
You're welcome.
If there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak on any of the items we have on the agenda here tonight, we'd ask that you fill out one of the blue cards, and please give those to either Miss Colleen or Miss Jessica, one of those that you can find, and they'll get those to us so we can make sure and call on you guys when you guys want to speak on those items. And if there's anybody here that has a cell phone or a pager, we ask that you would put those to silence, please, so we can conduct our meeting. With that, we thank you. Moving on to item number 5. The following has been advised in accordance with the law for action to be taken at 5:30. Receive and open seal bids for all gas and mineral lease on certain tracts of land, 8.62 acres or more or less in section 14 and 15. Mr. McMurray.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have one bid. It is from Cache River Exploration Incorporated out of Lafayette. Well, if there are any other bids, they could bring them forward at this time.
Are there any other bids that need to be brought forward at this time? Are there any other bids that need to be brought forward at this time? Please proceed, Mr. McMurray.
This is the bid of Cache River Exploration Incorporated out of Lafayette. They are bidding a 3-year lease with a cash bonus, and they have a cashier's check in the amount of $1,999.84. That's $232 per acre. The annual rental will be one half of that cash bonus, would be $999.92. The royalties they're bidding are 22% on all of the minerals that are listed on the form. It'd be appropriate, Mr. President, for a resolution accepting this bid and forwarding it to the State Mineral Board for their approval.
I have a motion by Ms. Trimmy and a second by Dr. Mackey. Is there any discussion? Any objection? So move. Item number 5 passes. Item number 6, receive a status report from Mr. Michael Sawyer, Director of the Calcasieu Parish Library System, on their ongoing activities. Mr. Sawyer, please state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Michael Sawyer. I reside at the library, well, my workplace at 301 West Claude Street. First of all, before I begin, I think it would be appropriate for us as a library to thank Colleen Clark and Mark McMurray for the job they did in working with us as a library. Over the years, they have been instrumental in making us where we are today. So I think on behalf of the library board and staff, we appreciate what all you did. So tonight, if you notice, this yellow or white sheet I gave you, it tells us we had a banner year in the library. Our circulation was up 17.5%. And that is tremendous, that's phenomenal, because in the library world, the average increase per circulation is generally between 5 and 8%. So we had such a great year last year because we did so many things with so many programs. And most importantly, we hit the million mark in circulation for the first time in 5 years. And on the second page, you'll see the track record of our history of circulation. And you can see we had, of course, 2 named storms in 2005 and 2 named storms in 2008. And so we're just recovering from all that. And so we finally were able to push for a million mark. And that's fantastic because I thought by October we had a shot at this, and the reality is it happened. The other interesting thing is, without adding any new PCs in the library, the usage was up 10%. So people are using the library just more now for the internet because we have to take care of the people who do not have computers and internet at home. And then the other thing that's a new trend is what we call downloadable or digital material. That doubled in circulation last year. But despite of all this technology, book remained the #1 reason why kids and adults come to the library. Now, the second thing I wanted to tell you about is we're running a logo contest. Now, I was here when Jason Barnes unveiled your new website, and when I saw that, it inspired or motivated me, we need to do something about our website too. So I thank Jason Barnes and his staff for lighting the fire under us and making it move forward. And so in December, we launched our new website, calcasieulibrary.org. Of course, we need to look at a logo for the library. So we're running a contest that's being sponsored by the Friends of the Library. And we hope the instructions and how to do it is on our website to submit your entry. We would like anybody in the Calcasieu Parish to consider submitting what they think the library logo should be. And the winner will get, the #1 winner will get, I believe, $350. The second place person get $100, and the third person get $50. I believe that's what it is. But there is cash prize for this. So we're trying to get the community buy-in into what we do with our logo. And finally, what you have on your yellow sheet is what we just got yesterday. Calcasieu Parish Public Library got a national award. It's the first time in the history of the library system we've gotten a national award. This is my 4th, but this is the first for Calcasieu Parish. And if you all remember, we did all that yard sign last year. That is what it's for. I provided you the information. I don't want to go into detail, but I'll pick up the award on behalf of the library in June when we have our annual conference in Washington, D.C. So I am excited about the opportunity, what we do in our library. I hope there's more awards to come down the road. But in my opinion, and that's just strictly my opinion, I believe our library system is the crown jewel of the South. So I'll answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions from the jury? Ms. Griffin.
Thank you, sir. A very good report. Mr. Sawyer, how many employees do you have working with the library system?
Right now, I believe we have currently 148.
You're doing great work, and I'm very pleased to see that the circulation increased to 1 million, say, the first time in 4 years, or the first 5 years. That's very good. In reference to the award that you received, where did this award come from?
It is the Highsmith Library Innovation Award, and that is being sponsored by one of the vendors, Highsmith, and they're a jobber that provides supplies for libraries. So this is this is being sponsored by the Public Library Association.
Now, one final question I have. In reference to your public relations officer, is that someone that was added on the staff since you've gotten there, or did the library system always have a public relations officer?
We always had one. I've given her a direction how to move forward on it. She's been fantastic. That's Judy Davison. And since I've been here, we've added a graphic person to help her with the PR.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin.
Sir.
Are there any of the jurors with any questions for Mr. Michael? Any other questions? Mr. Michael Sawyer, we thank you for your report, and it's always good to hear from you.
Report.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. McMillan and a second by Dr. Mackey to receive report. Item number 7. Is there any discussion on Mr. Sawyer's report that was given to us? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 6 passes. Number 7, receive report from staff on the police jury pre-certification efforts to become an affiliate to Keep America Beautiful and consideration of adopting a resolution authorizing the parish administrator to submit a grant request in the amount of $10,000. Mr. Jason. Mr. Jason, please state your name and position here with the parish, please.
Jason Barnes, Special Programs Coordinator, Police Jury. Yes, thank you, fellow members of the jury, for allowing me to speak. Real quick, I wanted to tell you about something very exciting that we're doing here with the ongoing efforts of our litter program, and we're becoming we are in the pre-certification process of becoming an affiliate of Keep America Beautiful. And today, this afternoon, we spent an afternoon of about 4 hours of some community members, a collection of community members that we've gathered from all over the parish to help us with pre-certification efforts. This particular process is going to take about 3 to 6 months. We're hoping in about 3 months we will have the process complete. And becoming an affiliate will open the doors up for many other exciting things, one being grants as well. So I also would like to recognize today with us from Keep America Beautiful on the national level is Miss Cecile Carson, and she's with us, and she came down to train. And then we also have the Keep Louisiana Beautiful Executive Director, Miss Lee Harris, who's always been a good friend of us here at Calcasieu Parish. We're going to be doing a lot of hard work to become certified and become an affiliate, and we're really excited about the idea of doing that. The other item that we are doing here with Keep Louisiana Beautiful on the state level is we've just applied for a grant in the amount of $10,000 that would go towards an educational aspect of the litter program, where we will go and, hopefully if funded, we will devise talking trash cans that will be placed in 5 or 10 area elementary schools, to where when someone puts an item of trash in the swivel will enact a message of 6 to 8 messages where kids or anybody can change out within each quarter. And the idea is once we put these trash cans in these 10 schools over the next 4 to 5 years, we hope that they will go through all of the schools and reach all of our elementary children. So that's what we're asking for a resolution for in this grant, and hopefully we'll be successful.
Thank you, Mr. Jason. Is there any other questions from the jury?
I move that we submit.
Move to
this
receive.
grant.
Mr. Scott moves that we receive report, and I have a second by Mr. Size. Is there any other discussion? Any objection? Motion passed. Thank you, Mr. Jason. Item number 8. Receive report from staff on report given by the representatives of the Corps of Engineers at the regular meeting of November 5th, 2009, more particularly as it relates to the list of projects eligible for federal funding, primarily in South Lake Charles area, as well as a statement made at the November 5th meeting pertaining to contamination found by the Corps of Engineers in Shupik Bayou. Mr. Alan Wainwright, please.
Thank you, Mr. Guidry. Included in your binders, after last week, we got with Nick, our representative with the Corps of Engineers, asked him to put together a summary of what we've done to date with this overall project. Rather than go through this entire spreadsheet, got a lot of information on it, I'd rather call your attention to a couple points, to highlight a couple things, and then maybe next week or as you've had time to read it and digest it, I'll be happy to field any other questions, or you can call me or whatever. To highlight a few things, item number 3 and item number 4 are the first two things I wanted to show you. This project really was, it began in, I guess, 2004. At some point, we modified the overall project and revised some of the scope of work. Items 3 and 4, working with gravity drainage in the Ward 3 area, were really revised to be items 10 and 11. So they're sort of shown in two places. That's just the way the Corps had their spreadsheet set up, so just kind of you can almost disregard items 3 and 4 because they become 10 and 11. About halfway down the sheet.
Mr. Wainwright,
Yes,
if you mind if I excuse you, I don't think any of the jurors have those handouts. Could we?
Yes,
You can proceed,
Would you
Ms.
like
Wayne.
me
I'm
to start
sorry.
over? Or? We're all right?
No.
All right. Well, between items 7 and 8, you might notice that there's a bit of a heavy line. That is the break between the original project and what was revised at some point. I don't really recall the date, but that's when that's the sort of difference. Call your attention to item 5, which is the one that we got talking about last week and we've talked about before, which is Shupik Bayou. In particular, I got back with Nick and reconfirmed that there is no environmental study that has been done relative to Shupik Bayou. That was simply a miscommunication. They had essentially crossed it up with Bayou Den and had a miscommunication. That's really all it was. They are back to work. You can see the schedule of activity. The computer models are in. They are essentially finishing up the cost-benefit analysis on that stretch. Now, we'll see what that turns out to be. Haven't looked at the models and haven't looked at the results. I'm not overly confident there's going to be a positive cost-benefit analysis to that project, but they are finishing that step, what we asked them to do. So if you look under the economic analysis block for that project, it shows that it's underway and it should be completed in approximately 4 months. If we were to get in the next box on this sheet, you might notice all of those boxes either have a cost-benefit analysis ratio of greater than 1 or less than 1. Most of ours are less than 1. And to the Corps of Engineers, that means these projects don't go any further. They won't get funded. So we're hoping for a positive ratio there, but hope might be all we have. You can see on number 6, which is Bayou Den, it did ultimately reach that point where it had environmental concerns. We're all familiar with that, so I won't discuss that any further. Item 7, which is some Calcasieu coulee work, they are just at the request of Ward 3 and Walt Jessen. They are looking at a few more things. That's why that's not done, but essentially those models are done. They continue to seek and look for alternatives that might work. Items 10 and 11, which are the two that we were specifically asked about last week and what we might or might not do, those are the projects that really boil down to changing out some culverts that may or may not be. We're ultimately going to have to decide whether we stick with the Corps of Engineers to go through their process for funding. That is a long, drawn-out process, and we may ultimately decide to do that in-house. They are projects that do have positive cost-benefit analysis, but the time will be the important thing. So when I asked Nick what we're going to do about that, his answer was they are finishing up, putting essentially the final work into what will be the environmental analysis, which they have to do anyway. It was part of the original project that's going to essentially say no environmental impact. At the point where they finish that is when we will be near about to that point where we're going to decide whether we stick with their program or we do our own thing. So that's coming back to you in the near future. Just not quite sure that he's pinned down that time just yet. So again, there's a lot of information on the sheet. I don't want to just go through every last cell with you on it. You can, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Be happy to take any calls and work with you directly next week or whenever you would like if you want to go that route too. So with that,
thank you, Mr. Wainwright. Mr. Scott.
Mr. Wainwright, is there a process to where, say we do 10 and 11 and we pay the $500,000, can we still go through the process and then pay us that back? I mean,
my short answer would be no.
But you're looking to, is there
their process
possibility?
Process requires federal legislation and getting into bills and things that are a long ways away, and these projects just in general being small and in that playing field, we're not going to get them funded under that route.
So they wouldn't get funded anyway, you don't think?
They're going to be low priority. It's going to be a while. Mr. Smart might have a better.
You got a yes answer, Mr. Smart?
Wait, Mr. Clark.
It could possibly get funded depending on if you want to write up and see your senator or your representative and ask them, since it's just a small amount. But it takes so long. They have to do legislation and put it in the Water Act and the Water Resources Act and tie it on, specifically name it, and no, you cannot start on it and get paid back later. They got their own set of rules. You don't follow them, you get no money back.
All right, thank you,
Mr. Scott. Is there any other discussion by any of the jurors? Any other discussion? Any objection? Ask for a motion to receive report.
Move to receive the report.
I have a motion by Mr. Calvin and a second by Ms. Griffin. Item number 8 passes. Item number 9. Take appropriate action on the application for liquor and beer permits. Mr. Vickers.
Mr. President, we have 2 applications, and we recommend they both be approved.
I have a motion by Mr. Stelly and a second by Ms. Griffin. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 9 passes. Also, I'd like to take a little point of personal privilege to recognize Mayor Kenny Stinson from the Vinton area. We welcome you for being here with us tonight, Mayor. Thanks for coming. All right, item number 10.
Move on 10.
Consideration approval of payments on all current invoices. I have a motion by Mr. Andrew Point and a second by Ms. Griffin. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 10 passes. Item number 11, consideration approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of the police jury dated January 7th, 2010.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Size. Second by Mr. Porter. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 11 passes. Item number 12, consideration approval of the agenda committee report dated January 28th, 2010. Ms. Trimmy.
Just move.
Ms. Trimmy move. Do I have a second? I have a second by Ms. Griffin. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 12 passes. Item number 13, consideration approval of the Public Works Committee report dated January 28th, 2010. I have a motion by Mr. Hassan and a second by Mr. Scott. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Item number 13. At this time, I'd like to recognize Mr. Brian Bean.
Thank you, Mr. President. Specifically 13.1, I just wanted to refer you to 13.1, the attachment. This is the table that was submitted, the project schedule proposed for the old Highway 171 area property that you purchased. Specifically, if you had any comments, questions on this, suggested changes, the main thing we need tonight at a minimum, if you want to stay on this schedule, are the first two items, which would be to approve the structure of this Citizens Advisory Task Force, which is at the bottom, and then the liaisons that Mr. Guidry would appoint to this effort. Other than that, you can kind of see the timeline.
I move to approve the complete schedule.
Second.
Okay. Ms. Trimmy, would that be on all bullets? Yes. Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Trimmy on all bullets, and I have a second. Can I get a second? I have a second by Mr. Spell on all bullets. Let me just read those bullets into the minutes, please, if you don't mind. 13.1, receive report from staff with reference to the proposed development of the property adjacent to the Highway 171 boat launch. 13.2, receive report from staff on project's timeline for renovations to the 901 building. 13.3, receive report from staff regarding statutory options available for delivery of utilities. 13.4, recommend that a resolution be adopted accepting Dreamview Estates Part 1 subdivision. 13.5, recommend that a resolution be adopted accepting Lee Firm Park Part 1 Phase 2 subdivision. 13.6, recommend that a resolution be adopted accepting Highland Forest Subdivision 2 Phase 3 Part A. 13.7, recommend that approval of a cooperative endeavor agreement between the Police Jury and Gravity Drainage District Number 4 of Ward 3. 13.7.1, adopt a resolution of approving a cooperative endeavor agreement which will provide the police jury to provide a financial assistance in the amount up to $71,500 to the drainage district. 13.7.2, adopt a resolution approving a cooperative endeavor agreement which will provide for the police jury to provide the financial assistance in the amount of $38,500 to the drainage district. 13.8, recommend that a resolution be adopted authorizing the president of the police jury to execute the necessary documents for acquisition of right-of-way. 13.9, recommend that a resolution be adopted approving a contract for engineering services between the police jury and C.H. Fenstermaker and Associates. 13.10, recommend that a resolution be adopted for forward to the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality. 13.11, recommend that a provisions of the condemnations of ordinance number 5779 be temporarily suspended until a report can be received at a regular meeting on February 18th, 2010. Is there any discussion? I have a motion on all bullets. I have a motion by Mr. Hassan and a second by Mr. Scott on all bullets. At this time, I recognize Mr. McMurray.
I just wanted to be clear. I think Ms. Trimmy was talking about approving the schedule that is the attachment and particularly approving the first bullet there. And I think, Mr. President, you are, my understanding is you're prepared to designate the liaison, which is the second item on that.
Yes.
That task force. I mean,
Yes.
on the project management milestones. So if that motion, if Mr. Hassan's motion includes approving this timeline on the very first bullet.
Would that motion include that, Mr. Hassan, on that?
Bullets, then
Yes.
that will solve that, and it also needs to include the makeup of the advisory task force, if that motion includes that as well. And then after that motion, it would be appropriate for you to designate the liaisons to that task force if you're ready to do that. If not, you can do that by memorandum. So
let's just do that by memorandum, Mr. Mark, so I can make sure that those persons that are appointed will be okay with that.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. McMurray. Item number 14. Is there any discussion? Is there any objection? Hearing none. Item number 13 passes. Ms. Trimmy.
I just have a question.
Square there, Brian.
That's good, thank you. I'll follow.
When I did 13-1, we did all of 13, all of the bullets. Is there any of those bullets that you want to say
well-
anything about at all? Because we've just approved all of them, and that's fine with me. If you have anything to say about them, then
I don't think were there any other reports on any of the bullets that need to be brought back? No, I think everything's fine.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Trimmy. Is there any
Mr. President.
discussion on that item? Hearing none. Item number 13 passes. Item number 14, consideration to approval of the Administration Liaison Group report dated February 4th, 2010. I'll call on Mr. Alan Smith, Legal Counsel.
Thank you, Mr. President. The liaison group has met with Mr. Beam to discuss the terms of his contract. It is my understanding that the liaison group has reached the decision and wants to report back to the full jury on its recommendations. And I'm speaking because there was no chairman and I acted as the moderator. Thank you.
Is there any discussion? Mr. McMillan.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. And to this jury, we did have a very good meeting with the liaison group. And what we'd like to do is at the end of this meeting, go into executive session with the entire jury and let you know our findings and outcome, and maybe the liaison group make a recommendation to this entire jury and maybe move forward with this. So I would ask that item 39 that we have an opportunity to go into executive session at the end of this meeting to give the recommendation to the entire jury what the liaison group spoke about in our earlier meeting.
Would that be okay with the entire body?
Do I need a motion to do that, or is that just, or can we do
You
it?
will at the point that you do it, yeah.
Okay.
All right. At the point of us going into executive session, so I want to let y'all know that the liaison group would like for y'all to go in executive session. I will be asking for a point to go in executive session at the end of these,
Ending of the
at the end of the meeting and deliberations.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Is there any other discussion on that item?
So is
Mr. Size.
So he's making a recommendation that we need to get approval on, right?
No, we're going to.
No, that we're going to go into executive session at the end of the regular
No,
meeting.
I'm talking about he's making a recommendation for us to go, right now the report
Yes.
is coming up.
Yes.
So he's making a recommendation right now for us
To
to
give us
act
the
on that,
report.
to approve that we'll do it.
No.
We don't have to-
No, sir, just to give us the
Okay.
report in executive session.
Thank you, Mr. Size. Is there any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none. Item number 14 passes. Item number 15, consideration and approval of the Budget Committee report dated February 4th, 2010. Mr. McMillan.
Thank you. As this year's budget chairman, I was quite honored to chair that meeting. We had 4 items on the Budget Committee report. All items were passed unanimously. I'll go over those 4 items with you. The first item we passed was for $7,150. The Disabled American Veterans had asked for $8,500 for a new van, but they came in and actually asked for a reduction in that amount of $7,150. And I tell you, those guys do a great job in transporting our veterans back and forth. Mr. Finney was here representing them, and we were really thrilled to have that opportunity to pass that. We do have some good items. The next request came from the town of Benton. They're going to be having their 100-year Heritage Festival. Our mayor, Kenny Simpson, was here from the town of Benton, and we recommend $30,000 out of it's going to be coming out of the Ward 7 allocation gaming funds and the gaming fund, $25,000 out of economic development and $5,000 from the Ward 7 allocation. The next item was a 50-50 split with the city of Lake Charles to finally get the lights on the I-10 bridge. The total project is going to be $327,458. The parish part, which was recommended by our budget committee, was half that, which was $163,729. Hopefully we can get that on a front burner and get those lights changed out as quickly as possible. And then the last recommendation from the budget committee was the Adams Golf Pro Tour is coming to Westlake. It's going to be held at the National Golf Course in Westlake, March 22nd through 28, 2010. $10,000 allocation from economic allocation of the gaming funds. This is a tremendous event that we're going to have back in Calcasieu Parish, and it's going to be a real economic boost for all of Calcasieu Parish as well as the National Golf Course in Westlake. With those 4 items being said and voted on unanimously, I'll make a recommendation that we approve the Budget Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. I have a motion by Mr. Fordham and a second by Ms. Griffin to receive report. Is there any discussion? Receive and pass report on the Budget Committee. Is there any objection? Hearing none. Item number 15 passes. Before I go on, Mayor Stinson, would you like to comment on anything that was mentioned today in the budget report for the mayor for the city of Vinton?
I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the police jury for these funds. Our festival is a very exciting time for us, and being 100 year, it's going to be a really good time. It'll be the second weekend in October. I urge all the jurors, if you have an opportunity to come out, please do. We're going to have some great entertainment. Marcia Ball is going to be our headline entertainment. Ivy Dugas, which is he is in the French Music Hall of Fame. We're trying to get Vinton people, and showcase the entertainment that came from Vinton. So, but we really do appreciate the opportunity to work with the jury. We thank you for your donation to this worthy cause.
Thank you, Mayor Stinson.
I have a question.
Ms. Trimmy.
I've been to the festival many years, and it's really a lot of fun. They don't charge anything to get in. It's really a family affair. I mean, you can go and take your kids and just have a great time, and it's all just very wholesome fun. But one thing I did want to bring up was the excitement that you had yesterday, and because we've had a little excitement in Quincy before too, being that the Correctional Institute's right out of town. So, how did everything turn out, Mr. Stinson, and how do you feel that it was handled?
Well, I was actually in Baton Rouge. We were at LMA function, and my phone started ringing, and it actually started the day before. There was another issue, and I vowed that I'm not going to leave town anymore because there's just too much going on when I leave. But I think everyone acted quickly. The guard that was on duty when the guy bolted, he made arrangements with our police department, and the sheriff's department came in, and then finally Phelps did come. As of 2 hours ago when I left town, he still hadn't been captured, but I think he's very low priority. He's just, he's in for burglary. He's 5'4" and weighs 150 pounds, so anybody in Vinton could probably take him down. So I'm not too worried about that. But what can I say? I'm sorry, Mr. Scott. Yeah, they're laughing at me.
I'm 5'6".
Okay. Well, you can take him down too. And I think everything was handled well. I mean, the weather was miserable. I mean, wherever he's hiding up, I mean, I really don't believe he's anywhere around there because, the rumor was that his grandmother had passed and he was taken off to go be with her, and that was somewhere in New Orleans. So I don't know. But Phelps did a really good job. The sheriff's department did, and my police department and public works people all.
So, Kenny, are they still patrolling the Big Woods area, or do they think he has left that area?
They're looking north and then to the west, toward Niblus Bluff, toward Starks. I mean, that's kind of where they think he's headed.
That's why I was asking.
They're still in Vinton.
Yeah. Okay.
Patrolling, but they're doing a really good job, and we appreciate what they do. We did have, we contacted the schools. The schools were locked down because it happened. Just prior to school that night. Some of the children in one school had to stay till 5 o'clock. So I don't know how the school board will handle that,
but they allowed school today?
Yes, they did.
Because they feel comfortable that they have this under control. They just haven't quite got him yet.
And the sheriff's department has deputies in the schools, so I think they felt comfortable if something did come up, it could be handled.
Well, I just appreciate the report because I'm very interested in it, and I feel like probably the public and all of our jurors are very interested in this.
We're just
urging, Kenny.
Right, we're just urging all the people in Vinton to keep an eye open and keep their doors locked. And if they see anything, please call 911 because there's plenty of people available to act on any tip that may come in.
Thank you, Kenny. Thank you for that report, and congratulations on the. I'll be there in October.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Trimmy. Thank you, Mayor Stinson. Item number 16, Consideration approval of General Insurance Committee report dated February 4th, 2010. Ms. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. The General Insurance Committee met today at 5:30, and these are the recommendations that we have agreed to bring to the full jury for approval. We received a very good report from Mr. Milner and one of his assistants. The recommendations are as following. Accept the contract with AmRisc for property insurance for a total cost of $1,033,910.62. Number 2, accept the contract for the traveler's package at $239,640, which includes employment practices, management liability, business auto liability, crime and identity fraud. 3, accept the contract with New York Marine as the excess carrier for the workers' comp policy at $74,366 with a required loss consultant of $12,000. And the last recommendation is to renew the annual Arthur J. Gallagher contract for $95,000. The chair would like to now ask for a motion to accept the recommendations presented to us.
So moved.
by General
Second.
Insurance.
I have a motion by Mr. Spell and a second by Mr. Collins to receive report. I'm sorry. Mr. Milner.
Thank you. I had one question. I answered incorrectly to Mr. Hassan. Okay, and I wanted to correct that. When you asked me if Arthur Gallagher just had, I said they only had one contract. They had 3, now they have 2. We do have a contract with them for our health. We have a health insurance consulting contract. So I had told you we only had 1. I had misspoke. We have 2. Last year we had 3, so we are going down 1. And they do shop net of commissions, so their fee, there's no commission charged in addition to the fee.
Thank you, Mr. Milner. The motion was to accept the report of the General Insurance Committee. Is there any discussion? Is there any objection? Hearing none. Item number 16 passes. Item number 17, consideration
Move on
approval of
17, all
recommendations of
bullets.
the Director of the Division of Planning and Development in reference to the adjudicated property sales conducted on January 26, 2010. I have a motion by Mr. Collins.
Second.
And a second by Mr. Fordham. There were 3 bullets also added to that. I'll just go through those so I can put those into the minutes. 17.1, 1920 11th Street, vacant lot. Highest offer in the amount of $9,900 by Mr. Dwayne Brown be accepted. 17.2, 405 North Enterprise Boulevard. Highest offer in the amount of $9,000 by LCL Investments be accepted. 17.3, northeast corner of Fancher and Short Street. The highest offer in the amount of $3,400 by Ms. Erlene Prescott be accepted. I had a motion by Mr. Collins and a second by Mr. Fordham. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none. Item number 17 passes. Item number 18, consideration of adopting ordinance
All bullets.
in the following surplus adjudicated property in accordance with LSA RA to Habitat for Humanity Calcasieu area. Mr. Scott, would that be on all bullets?
All bullets.
Okay, Mr. Scott had a motion on all bullets and a second by Mr. Spell. Let me just go through those bullets so we can put those into the minutes. 18.1, 121 Blake Street. 18.2, 200 block of First Avenue. 18.3, 100 block of Reed Street. 18.4, 100 block of Bank Street. 18.5, 200 block of First Avenue. 18.6, 100 block of South Blake. 18.7, 100 block of Libby Street. 18.8, 500 block of Fournette Street. 18.9, 722 Fournette Street. Is there any discussion?
Question.
I'm sorry, Ms. Griffin.
Thank you, sir. I suppose I could address this to you, Mr. Vickers?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I noticed that there are, I think, 8 different properties that we're willing to donate. And I'm wondering if Habitat for Humanity Calcasieu area will be looking at building homes perhaps in the future. with these properties, or is it for other businesses? Or will it be used for building homes?
Building homes.
Quite interesting to see that most of these are in North Lake Charles. Okay, that's interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin.
President.
Is there any other discussion? Is there any objections? Item number 18 passes. Item number 19.
Move on 19.
Consideration of authorizing the Director of Planning and Development to notify the following property owners in accordance with Article 2 of Chapter 6 of Code of Ordinance of Parish of Calcasieu, Louisiana. I have 9 bullets. Mr. Spell, would that be on all 9 bullets? I have a motion by Mr. Spell and a second by Mr. Collins on all bullets. Let me just read those bullets into the minutes, please. 19.1, 5711 East Broad Street, East Lake Charles. 19.2, Morrow Road, Moss Bluff area. Sorry about that. 19.3, 2110 Nichols Road, Westlake area. 19.4, 2580 Bertrand Avenue, Moss Bluff area. 19.5, 7301 Dubois Lane, South Lake Charles area. 19.6, 5433 Eastern Drive, South Lake Charles area. 19.7, 2010 Payton Street, Lot 69, Sulfur area. 19.8 Highway 14, East South Lake Charles area. 19.9, 703 Douglas, DeQuincy area. Is there any other discussion? Is there any objection? Item number 19 passes. Item number 20, consideration of adopting a resolution approving a change in the grant management and administrating of the Coastal Impact Assistance Program, CIAP project known as Horseshoe Lake Marsh Restoration for the Department of Natural Resources. We have a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr.
Second.
Fordham and a second by Mr. Calvin. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none. Item number 20 passes. Y'all gonna have to wake up. Item number 21, consideration of adopting a resolution approving a lease agreement between the police jury and Mr. Johnny Pell for the property located at 1001 Mullane Drive in Sulfur.
Move.
I have a motion by Mr. Andrew Point.
Second.
And a second by Mr. Scott. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none. Item number 21 passes. Item number 22, consideration of adopting a resolution approving a renewal of a legislative consulting agreement between the police jury and Southern Strategy Group of Louisiana for legislative monitoring services for the 2010.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. McMillan and a second by Mr. Size. Ms. Griffin.
Okay, Mark coming up now at the same time. Mark, for the Southern Strategy Group, is that the same consultant group that we've been having all
It's
these?
Judy McCleary, yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
They changed the name?
Well, she actually, McCleary and Associates, it was originally the monitoring group that we had used, and McCleary and Associates a couple of years ago merged with Southern Strategy, so they're the same company now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. Is there any other discussion? Is there any other discussion by the jurors? Any objection? Hearing none. Item number 22 passes. Item number 22, I'm going to call on Mr. McMurray.
We're just going to ask you to withdraw this item. We don't
Okay.
need to do this.
Okay.
The project's moving ahead on the elevator system without that.
Very good, Mr. McMurray. We'll just delete item number 21.
Item number 23.
Item number 23. So we'll delete item number 23. Item number 24, consideration of adopting a resolution approving a renewal of a cooperative endeavor agreement between the police jury and the Calcasieu Parish Sheriff's Office for the use of one full-time deputy for the litter enforcement activity. I have a motion by Mr. Spell and a second by Mr. Stelly. Is there any discussion? Ms. Griffin, do you have any discussion?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Is there any objection? Miss Sandy over there smiling at me. Hearing none, item number 24 passes. Item number 25, consideration of adopting a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding between the police jury and the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality to utilize the restitution funds in the amount of $40,000.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. McMillan and a second by Mr. Scott. Is there any discussion?
Yes, under discussion.
Under discussion, Mr. McMillan.
I'd
like to recognize, Mr. President, if you let me, the captain of our wildlife and fisheries here today, Mr. Jubal Marceau. Jubal, if you'd stand up so I can see, he does a great job for all Calcasieu Parish, and we appreciate the wildlife and fisheries work on the litter abatement stuff here, and we're working with wildlife and fisheries on that behalf. So, Jubal, thank you for being in our meeting. Thank you, Mr.
Would you like Mr. Jubal to come up and have a few words? If you'd like, Mr. Jubal, you're more than welcome to come up and have a few words with us. State your name and address for the record, Mr. Jubal. Thank you for coming up.
Jubal Marceau. I appreciate the kind words. We look forward to, hope this can work. We can work something out and get involved, more strictly toward Calcasieu. I cover 8 parishes, and I can say that, we take littering real seriously, and the public's really behind us on this, and we get a lot of calls of people reporting littering, and we look forward to working with y'all.
Thank you so much. Mr. McMillan, you have the floor.
Stay right there, just say I think there's a couple other questions too, but discussing litter on the waterways, and how many agents would we have from your agency working litter? I mean, and not just in the waterways, but anywhere they see litter. What kind of force do we have with the wildlife and fisheries?
I have 28 agents that work the 8 parishes. If we have problem areas, we can pull some of those agents in from the other parish and other districts, which we do, and that's been one way we've been able to combat a lot of littering, is moving our agents in. But I think if this agreement would work, we would concentrate strictly on Calcasieu and, hopefully clean up some sites and just being, whether it's on the vehicles or boats, we'll keep an active eye out for it.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Mr. Fordham.
Yeah, here a while back we had a report from somebody, and I forget the name of that kind of grass that grows all over the water. It's a problem. And was it your agency that was trying to control that?
We have in our office, we have a division that handles that strictly. That's the aquatic division.
As the cold weather, they were talking at the time that one of the biggest combative things for that was cold weather. Has it helped y'all's situation at all, or do you know?
I'd really have to get back. I think it would. I don't know a whole lot about that. Like I said, they know the ins and outs, but I could get back with you on that and let you know. I would think it would have helped the cold weather.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Jubal. Is there any other discussion? Sorry, Mr. Scott.
Captain Marceau, do they have an area in Calcasieu Parish that's the worst that y'all know of? Target area at this point?
There are some spots that we could definitely concentrate on. There's some areas that we ride and we see where it would take time. The thing is that it all comes with time and the limited number of agents. But this would be overtime, so the agents we could be putting more agents out there on their days off. Surveilling the areas. We got access to cameras, so it's just sometimes it takes time to get some of those this hard areas to concentrate on.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Mr. McMillan.
One more quick question while we got you here. A lot of times there's abandoned barges or abandoned boats or just a lot of debris that's left. Have we done anything in moving forward with kind of tracking down some of that so we can hold somebody responsible for that's a litter kind of in the worst kind, when they just leave an old boat out there or an old barge out there.
Sure, that's one of the main problems we're addressing too right now. We're working with Calcasieu OEP on that too. They're helping. There's people contracted that remove, but if we can trace a boat back to someone that just neglected a boat, we'll definitely take action.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan, and we thank you for your time, sir.
Thank y'all. You have a good evening.
Is there any other discussion? Any other objection? Hearing none, item number 25 passes. Item number 26, consideration of adopting a resolution approving a cooperative endeavor agreement between the Police Jury and the Louisiana Wildlife and Fishery Office, Region 5, for services related to ongoing litter enforcement efforts, with said services being paid for by a grant in the amount of $20,000. I have a motion by Mr. Andrew and a second by Mr. Collins. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none. Item number 26 passes. Item number 27, take appropriate action on the expiration of the term of Mr. Roy Orant as a member of the Board of Commissioners of Ward 6 Fire Protection District Number 1. The agenda note says that Mr. Arant will be reappointed.
you don't need to say
Is there any discussion?
Second.
Any objection? I have a motion by Ms. Truman, a second by Mr. McMillan, that Mr. Roy Arant will be appointed to that position. Item number 27 passes. Item number 28, take appropriate action on the expedited term of Mr. Alan L. Smith, Jr. as a member of the Airport Authority of Airport District Number 1. I have a motion by Mr. Scott and a second by Mr. McMillan that Mr. Allen be reappointed. Madam Secretary, should we call for a roll call vote on that?
I'm thinking so.
Is there any other discussion?
I was just wondering if there was no other qualified candidate.
I don't know, Ms. Andrew Point. I was just wondering about that myself, Ms. Andrew Point. So that's why I asked Ms. Kathy, should we get a roll call vote? You're doing a great job, Mr. Smith. You really are. Any other discussion? Any objection? Item number 28 passes. Item number 29, take appropriate action on the expiration of the term.
So
of
moved.
Superintendent says, as a member of the Board of Commissioners of Waterwork District Number 14 of Ward 5. I have a motion by Ms. Trimmy and a second by Ms. Griffin to reappoint Mr. Sayers. Is there any discussion?
No,
Any
not to
objection?
reappoint. Mr. Sayes is very ill, and I'm appointing, extremely ill, and I'm appointing Greg Gillis in
Greg Gillis. I'm
his
sorry, Ms.
stead.
Trimmy. We're going to for appointment of Mr. Greg Gillis. Is there any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 29 passes. Mr. Smith threw me off there for a minute. Item number 30, take appropriate action on bids received by the Parish Purchasing
Move on
Agent
30.
on January 26, 2010 for 3 commercial grade grinder pump units. I have a motion by Mr. Collins and a second by Mr. Spell. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 30 passes. Item number 31, take appropriate actions on bids received by the Parish Purchasing Agent on January 28, 2010 for replacement of existing
Form
water
31.
chiller. The agenda note says that the Parish Purchasing Agent recommend that the lowest bid in the amount of $49,800 of air conduit be accepted. I have a motion by Mr. Fordham and a second by Mr. Collins. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Item number 31 passes. Item number 32, take appropriate actions on bids received by the Parish Purchasing Agent on January 28, 2010 for sign blanks, sign face, and sheeting material, pavement markings, metal signs post, category 6 FTP cable. I have a motion by Mr. McMillan and a second by Mr. Scott. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 32 passes. Item number 33, take appropriate actions on bids received by the Parish Purchasing Agent on January 28, 2010 for mosquito control chemicals, Vectomax, for unit price effective March 1st, 2010 until December 31st, 2010 for mosquito control solvent. I have a motion by Mr. Size and a second by Mr. Stelly. Any discussion? Any objection? Item number 33 passes. Item number 34, consideration of authorizing and invoking the authority under LSA RS 38.2212D, which provides for a declaration of public emergency with reference to elevator upgrade at the 901 building.
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Trimmy and a second by Mr. Size. Is there any discussion? Is there any objection? Mr. McMurray, would you want to comment? Did you have any comments on that, or were you? Number 34. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. McMurray. Item number 35. Consideration of authorizing the Parish Purchasing
Move on
Agent to
35.
advertise for bids for Curacao Bridge lumber with unit price effective from March 5th, 2010 until July 31st, 2010. I have a motion by Mr. Hassan and a second by Mr. Fordham. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Item number 35 passes. Item number 36, consideration of authorizing the Parish Purchasing Agent to advertise for bids
Second.
for 2 new 1-ton flatbed chemical spray trucks, 1 new 1-ton crew cab pickup truck, 1 new 1-ton regular cab pickup truck with service body, 2 new sport utility vehicles, diesel pickup truck with animal transport unit, 2 new half-ton extended cab pickup trucks, and further declaring as surplus for 1 1990 Ford flatbed truck. I have a motion by Mr. Andrew Point and a second by Ms. Trimmy. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Item number 36 passes. Item number 37, consideration of authorizing the parish purchasing agent to advertise for bids to utilize state contract purchasing procedures for one new Gridall XL 4100, one tractor with boom mower, one tractor with side mower, one side vibratory asphalt. I did not want to mispronounce that. Vibratory
You did good.
asphalt roller. Excuse me.
You did good.
Thank you, Mr. Trimmy. I have a motion by Ms. Trimmy. I have a second by Mr. Fordham. Is there any discussion? I have discussion by Mr. Spell.
Mr. Wainwright, do we need a flushing rig too, or not necessary at this time?
We're satisfied with the equipment we have, Mr. Spell.
Thank you, Mr. Wainwright. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Spell. Any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 37 passes. Item number 38, consideration of adopting a resolution proclaiming February 23rd, 2010 as Spay Day USA 2010 throughout Calcasieu Parish, and further authorizing the Department of Animal Service and Adoption Center to reduce the cost for spays and neuters of all animals adopted from the center from the week of February 22nd, 2010 through February 26th, 2010 in honor of Spay Day USA. I have a motion by Mr. Collins and a second by Mr. Hassan. Is there any discussion? Any objection? I'm sorry, Mr. Scott.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention to Miss Rita out in the crowd that, she has been doing a great job since she's taken over animal control out there, and I just wanted to tell her she's doing a great job.
Ms. Kavanaugh, would you like to come up and have a few words with us?
Yes, sir. Hello. I'm real excited about Spay Day USA. It's an opportunity for us to show the citizens that we do care about the overpopulation crisis, and I appreciate you guys acknowledging this and moving on it.
Thank you so much. You do a great job, and we hear so many positive reports from your department, and we want you to know that we really appreciate the job that you're doing, Ms. Kavanaugh.
Thank you.
Is there any
Thank you
discussion by the other jury members?
Ditto.
Any objection? Thank you, Ms. Trimmy. Hearing none, item number 38 passes. Number 39 is an advised item. The Calcasieu Parish Police Jury, Division of Finance, and Ms. Tammy Buffkin, Assistant Director of Finance, have once again been awarded the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Finance Reporting for the year ending December 31st, 2008, which marks the 18th consecutive year the Calcasieu Parish has received this award. Mr. Mullane, you're going to have to say a few words on this one.
I think one of my best decisions I ever made was hiring Tammy Buffkin.
Yes. Yes.
She is good.
She is good. We appreciate the. We try to this financial award kind of helps us demonstrate to the public the financial strength of this parish and what the police jury has done over the years to get in that position. So we're thankful to the police jury for what they've done, and we're thankful for the compliment.
Thank you, Mr. Milner.
I have something I'd like to say before we go to the add-on that Mr. Hollywood's going to do for us. I'd like to pass a resolution on behalf of this police jury acknowledging the 18 years and the consecutive work that our finance staff, our Department of Finance, and also our administrative staff, which works, and all directors of every department that actually has to work with the administration, and they have to have everything in on time. It all has to be right, and all the hard work that the staff of all of our departments do in conjunction with our administrative staff, and also Jerry Milner and Tammy Buffkin and their staff for excellence, excellence, excellence. And actually what I would like to do is pass this resolution and ask that at our next regular meeting that each one of us sign that resolution, each one of the police jurors, acknowledging what these people do on our behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Trimmy. I have a motion by Ms. Trimmy and a second by Ms. Griffin. Is there any discussion? Any objection? That'll pass, Ms. Trimmy. Before we go on, I have a 2/3 item I need to take up at this time.
Move to suspend.
Second.
Motion to suspend. I have a motion by Ms. Trimmy and a second by Mr. Spell to suspend item 1, which
Kathy,
is
you knew which one.
consideration of proclaiming Sunday, February
Made the
7,
motion.
2010, as New Orleans Saints Day in Calcasieu Parish, Louisiana, expressing the police jury deepest pride in the New Orleans Saints and their organization for the positive impact they have had in this season on the city of New Orleans and in the entire state of Louisiana. At this time, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this item?
I think we all
Putting it on the agenda.
should say who dat.
Who that? Hearing none, I ask for this time a motion to suspend the rules to allow this item to be placed on the agenda. Okay. Hearing there's none,
Move to adopt.
we'll move to adopt item 1, which is consideration of proclaiming Sunday, February 7, 2010, as New Orleans Saints Day here in Calcasieu Parish. Motion passed unanimously. Is there any other discussion? Any other objection? Item passed. At this time, I would actually we would go into executive. I'm sorry, Mr. Spell.
I just wanted to say I've read the proclamation. Miss Kathy and her staff did an excellent job writing it, and kudos to the excellent work that y'all continue
Yes.
to do on a daily basis.
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spell, for bringing that up to all of us here. We thank you.
He did.
At this time, we're going to ask for a motion to go into executive session, and before so, I'd like to call on Mr. McMillan, please.
Yes, quickly before we go into that, I'd like to say thank you to our staff. Kevin and I both having popped Achilles tendons. They made these really nice stools for us to prop our legs on.
I love
Tell
it.
you what, it's tremendous. It's almost.
They did a great job.
How cool.
Great
Yeah.
job, staff.
All right.
Thank you for that. Very proud of that. I was leaning back on that the entire meeting.
It helped a lot, believe me.
I'd like
Yeah.
to make a motion that we go into executive session to receive a report from the liaison committee on the report on
Scraps.
the
Scraps.
for the new administrator. So at this point in time, I'd like to make that motion.
Mr. McMillan made the motion, Ms. Griffin seconded. We'll now proceed into executive session. On what was discussed in executive session. This time, I'd call on Mr. Tony Stelly.
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. We have reviewed the recommendations from the from the administrative liaison group. We have decided to make our decision on our regular meeting on February the 18th based on the recommendations that they had given us, which will also give us time to review those recommendations and come up with a decision on February the 18th. That is my motion.
I have a motion.
Executive session.
In executive session, I have a motion by Mr. McMillan and a second by Ms. Griffin. Any other discussion? Any other objection? At this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Now been adjourned.